Gosh, multiverse. Gosh, multiverse. Ooh. Gosh, multiverse. What have we been up to these last 3 days? On April 20th, I spent easily 3 hours in meditation and embodied mindfulness. Deva Premal and Miten have been broadcasting each day to extend their Sangha to those in need across the world, at least those who can reach them. As dangerously sick as I have been the last few days because of challenges getting safe food, we have been surrounded by glorious and particular blessings too. We've started delving into more Team Human episodes, excited to express our appreciation and the way we have long benefited from content created by Douglas Rushkoff and those who resonate with his work. Surprising, nourishing connections are being made across the network. People in our communities are still suffering terribly, many of them suffering much more terribly than they were before COVID-19. And there is an emergence of resources, acknowledgement, and caring now that is not only a great relief, it is utterly unprecedented in our memories. There's also a sense coming into clarity for more of the world, recognizing that it is a profound strength to have survived, to be surviving the very worst of invisible circumstances. More people find out every day what this means, seem to work together more effectively, seem to offer one another more kindness and safety, seem to choose the value of collaborating creatively together in caring community. My heart seems to expand and become everything, and we are not disconnected as we seemed to be previously. We are all part of the same great living being. Together, can we surf this thing? April 22nd was some kind of flurry of activity. I was still very sick yesterday, but less than the previous day. Long sought equipment cables arrived and allowed me to stabilize a few more portions of my Frankensteinian broadcast radio rig, made from half broken electronics and a whole lot of praying. Video is now more a part of radio than it ever has been before, and not just for me. Oodles of people are discovering tool sets that are available out of necessity. It's amazing how the whole landscape of everything can change, the details, the people, the opportunities. I tested a short live stream to read a piece of text entitled Franciscan Benediction that we found many places on the internet without a clear sign of where it originated. It sure lifted my spirit. Jill Kesty of the Coalition to End Forced Psychiatric Drugging published a YouTube video, followed now by a second one I'm looking forward to watching. We read from a book called Trauma and Recovery by Judith Herman, with thanks to Brendan, who passed along the link that we've included in our broadcast document, which you can find at the top of intuitive.pub/text. The relief we felt as we settled into reading this book, Trauma and Recovery by Judith Herman, was almost shocking. No. The relief we felt was shocking. I think I am still shocked by it, and I'm looking forward to doing more radio reading. As ever, it seems my brain is most capable of understanding the content if I read it over the radio to others. That first reading attempt is crucial. And as Judith Herman underscores in the introduction to her book, community connectivity is crucial. Later than I am usually awake, the evening of April 22nd, was that really yesterday? Yes. A few members of Bridge Family Group, including myself, attended the COVID-19 Solidarity Gathering for RAD healers and frontline healthcare workers, a Health Justice Commons, healthjusticecommons.org, virtual gathering co-facilitated by Orame Bagheri, Fabian Fernandez, and Mordecai Cohen-Edinger. The perilous stretch of extending my bedtime 2 to 3 hours later than usual brought me into contact with undeniable social nourishment. I will be careful about when and how I do it again, because the body tells me it hurts, but the body also tells me how very much it was worth it. Our tremendous gratitude to the organizing done by HJC and the many moving pieces they coordinate for successful digital gatherings and resource sharing. I feel great fondness for an organization that takes three such important words, health, justice, commons, and puts them together, energizing a sigil that nourishes and regenerates efforts in community. Different and very similar, I think, to the ways that intuitive, public, and radio have emerged for many of us. In all the metacosmia, in the spaces where gods dwell between motes and waves, we are realizing beautiful ideas, establishing new and magical connections that are more resonant and safe. Blessings, flagrant. People and communities, very, very brave. It's April 23rd, 2020. There's no telling what may happen today. But there's a very good chance we will be broadcasting sound vibrations and radio sunlight, healing rays. It was almost impossible to do before, but more and more we are finding it. Prayers, intentions, courage in the heart, determination of mind, discernment for details, deeper respect for what challenges us, and the neurologically reparative value of play does truly seem to show us ways, gives us the resilience to get up and try again. Today in the Mayan Tzolk'in is called Sixth Sun. Mark Elmy at thefourpillars.net writes, today the Nawal of the divine combines with the number representing stability and family values. It is a day of recognizing the holiness in what is directly around you. Shining. What can we do? What can we do? At 12:09 p.m. Eastern on April 23rd, I am listening to Team Human episode 149 with Mark Stallman entitled Get Digital, Go Medieval. This episode aired March 4th, 2020. I hope you will go to find it in its entirety at teamhuman.fm. I have listened to it many times since publishing. Often my auxiliary recorder finds me tapping the back button, constantly replaying the nearly the same 15 seconds to 15 minutes of content, nigh 80 repetitions, meditating on the words that were used and how they align together. Thick gardens, deep nourishment. Reading a section at 48 minutes and 48 seconds. In having trouble, aren't we? What should I do? I don't know. I don't know if any of this is getting through. It says it's live. I see myself frozen on the screen. This is a fascinating experience. I'm making a funny face. Oh, I got it. Why did you freeze up, computer? Are you okay? Where's this clip? There I am. And I think it's working. This is a fun game. Take a look at this. Or rather, take a listen. How am I going to tell which one? I don't know. Maybe it's this one. Well, that's not the one I meant. That's definitely not the one I meant. But now I know what order they're in. They seem to appear almost randomly. This is a fun kind of thing. Oh, what's that? Oh, man. Well, maybe it's that one. We learn so many new things all the time. It's really a blessing. That's not the one that I clicked, though. Like, it's seriously not. We can do it. I believe in us. Well, that's what I clicked on right there. I don't know why that's not the one it gave me. The computer's having trouble. Did I leave something open? Not that, at least. What is this? Something completely different. I think I know why the computer slowed down. I don't know if it will allow me to Zoom, but if the live stream's still going, that's what I'll do. It is. We are resilient, aren't we? Ooh. Found it. Here's the clip. I found it. I think this is even going to work. Do you believe that? Oh man, but what's going to happen if I play it? I think I need to turn off my microphone and play this through the internet conduits and then turn my microphone back on, because otherwise won't you get a doubled up sound? And if I try to check it, it will be tripled. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pray. Do you do that sometimes? Do you pray? Oh, I can do it. I can do it. Watch this. I mean, listen.
And you think that somehow by changing the way that we look at the world or experience what's happening, and we take our focus maybe slightly off, oh, look at the damage human beings are doing to the environment, and instead look at our displacement by AI and robots, that we can more effectively challenge these threats to our sustainability?
The only way that we will challenge those industrial age threats is by becoming, once again, fully human.
Becoming, once again, fully human. I am trying to find it to check it, but I don't have it here. I'm not fast enough. It's helpful to know if the sound is working. Once again, fully human. Okay, we're gonna do it again, and we're gonna find out if it works. But I'm not gonna worry about it now. I think I played it, and I definitely linked to it. Thank you for going on this adventure with me. Thick gardens, deep nourishment. Right now, I'm repeating a section at 48 minutes and 48 seconds in. That's what I hope I just played for you. 15 minutes from the end, where the dangers of becoming robots loom more pressing than the hollow media spectacle of climate crisis, and I am startled into speaking. It is not only the robotization of processes and, by strict social media dictate, the robotization of people to suit technical systems. It is also plainly in every instance where a human being cannot deviate from a painful script. If people are programmed to harm one another as clearly as they are, to release the robotization that has been required from us in society is to discover the inherent aliveness of our real selves. This is like Mark Stallman says, the humans are of the humus. Humans are made up of earth. With the interconnected nourishments of microbial animism, with a developing sense of energetic diplomacy, there is a new way of thriving. It doesn't require unbearable hardship to succeed. Everybody in belonging, where it is balancing for them to be, that feels a lot more like success to me. A professional that can't release their scripts is programmed by something they can't understand while within it. We don't find out how dire the effects on survivors until we more intuitively listen to those surviving the worst of it. Does your corner of the culture have tensions and barricades against deeply hearing people suffering extremity? Do words of compassion match to awareness and action? That has a lot to do with displacement by AI and robots, the robotization of our expressions, personalities, and communities, with scripts unwittingly leaving out or intentionally disrupting the most profoundly human possibilities.
Ourselves to mistakenly believe we can build ethical robots that we can then attribute legal rights to, and that we can step back as humans and allow the robots to take over. That will not be permitted. And so the counterculture in which we now live will be that battle between the humans and the robots. As N. Catherine Hales, who is the matriarch of the post-human world, calls them, technical systems. We cannot allow technical systems to take over our lives.
And you think that somehow by changing the way that we look at the world or experience what's happening, and we take our focus maybe slightly off, oh, look at the damage human beings are doing to the environment, and instead look at our displacement by AI and robots, that we can more effectively challenge these threats to our sustainability?
The only way that we will challenge those industrial age threats is by becoming, once again, fully human. There is no alternative.
And that means on like an individual level, like meditating or doing yoga or microdosing psychedelics, so much of what comes to mind in terms of becoming more human, it feels like palliative care for those of us who've become kind of dissociated or disconnected from who we are. And you don't mean that. It's not sitting and doing TM necessarily.
No, that's exactly right. The therapeutic world in which we now live, the self-help world,
wellness,
the wellness and the thriving and so forth world, that's completely television. We cannot allow technical systems to take over our lives.
And you think that somehow by changing the way that we look at the world or experience what's happening, and we take our focus maybe slightly off, oh, look at the damage human beings are doing to the environment, and instead look at our displacement by AI and robots, that we can more effectively challenge these threats to our sustainability?
The only way that we will challenge those industrial age threats is by becoming, once again, fully human.
I think it worked. What I hear when I repeat this section over and over again is that we'd better start connecting to truly know and help one another. rather than being distracted by mechanisms known for intentional misdirection. When we at Intuitive Public Media slogged through Extinction Rebellion communities, we started building XR Neighborhood, Mr. Rogers like, and ended up referring to XR Trauma because robotized trauma expressions were almost all we found. Almost none of the people we interacted with realized that people are being trafficked in the midst of these and other commonly respected communities, and would not respond when we tried to insist they recognize what we were saying. We said, there are simple actions you can take that will be nothing to you and everything to those who are being harmed. But somehow, without more privileged algorithms, they didn't really understand or follow up on anything we both seemed to agree was meaningful. They seemed lost in their own kind of sensory isolation despair, running scripts, destroying the world around them, while wishing for beautiful things to happen. How are we activists for a good cause if we trample and waste people with solutions in our communities? Or are we still looking for someone in government to blame when we could turn our energy and attention to helping one another directly? It seems silly until you realize how traumatized the environment is, that we are all part of that environment. And so the trauma extremifying is affecting all of us in some way directly. Then you realize that the Furbies who can't recognize severe suffering and can't stop repeating the scripts they've been given are traumatized, really and really and really. People caught in that can't change or act until they have enough kindness, support, and community to access their own best healing. So gosh, we gotta keep building. There are a whole bunch of links here, and I hope that you will visit them. The most important ones are teamhuman.fm and patreon.com/teamhuman, digitallife.center is Mark Stallman's site. And you can find more of our links by browsing to the live broadcast document at the top of intuitive.pub/text.
So, what I'm telling you is that the very difficult task of shifting from one where we allow ourselves to go through life being distracted by bright, shiny objects, which is the figure side of the equation, which today, to a very large number of people, appears to look like doom, that has become an enormously popular figure.
And it's really hard not to see that and feel that, especially when you have kids and you see the Amazon on fire and the polar ice caps melting and
Every other level of human organization starts.
and you don't mean that. It's not sitting and doing TM necessarily.
No, that's exactly right. Therapy
Human beings are doing to the environment, and instead look at our display.
satirically imagine them to be. We're increasingly Hales, who is the matriarch of the post-human world, calls them technical systems. We cannot allow technical systems to take over our lives.
And you think that somehow by changing the way that we look at the world or experience what's happening, and we take our focus maybe slightly off, oh, look at the damage human beings are doing to the environment, and instead look at our displacement by AI and robots, that we can more effectively challenge these threats to our sustainability?
The only way that we will challenge those industrial age threats is by becoming, once again, fully human. There is no alternative.
And that means on like an individual level, like meditating or doing yoga or microdosing psychedelics, what so much of what comes to mind in terms of becoming more human, it feels like palliative care for those of us who've become kind of dissociated or disconnected from who we are. And you don't mean that. It's not sitting and doing TM necessarily.
No, that's exactly right. The therapeutic world in which we now live, this self-help world,
Wellness.
the wellness and the thriving and so forth world, that's completely television. That is an understandable, amusing yourself to death reaction. And here is really the key term in all of this: responsibility. We will only become fully human if we begin to learn how to take responsibility for our actions. That means at an individual level, to be sure. It also means at every other level of human organization, starting with the family, moving on to all the various groups to which we belong, to the societies we participate in, the countries that we are citizens of, and ultimately the world. We must take responsibility.
And that's hard to do, though, when so much of the impact of our actions has been obscured from us anyway. So the person going to Walmart and buying some little piece of plastic, the impact of what they've done, their responsibility has been externalized. It's been obscured. They don't see the slave that made it. They don't see the pollution that they're creating. It's hard to take responsibility when you can't even see what it is that we're doing.
Under television conditions, everything becomes docudrama. And so that obscures the underlying reality in very severe ways, either negatively or positively. It doesn't matter. Reality becomes obscure. It is only through digital technology where we are compelled to remember the actual structures and facts and relationships that lie behind all of this. And there is no escape. Now, I wouldn't for a moment suggest that this is going to be easy. I simply said it is inevitable. So what I'm telling you is that the very difficult task of shifting from one where we allow ourselves to go through life being distracted by bright, shiny objects, which is the figure side of the equation, which today, to a very large number of people, appears to look like doom, that has become an enormously popular figure.
And it's really hard not to see that and feel that, especially when you have kids and you see the Amazon on fire and the polar ice caps melting.
And so that obscures the underlying reality in very severe ways, either negatively or positively. It doesn't matter. Reality becomes obscure. It is only through digital technology where we are compelled to remember the actual structures and facts and relationships that lie behind all of this. And there is no escape. Now, I wouldn't for a moment suggest that this is going to be easy. I simply said it is inevitable. So what I'm telling you is that the very difficult task of shifting from one where we allow ourselves to go through life being distracted by bright, shiny objects, which is the figure side of the equation, which today, to a very large number of people, appears to look like doom, that has become an enormously popular figure.
And it's really hard not to see that and feel that, especially when you have kids and you see the Amazon on fire and the polar ice caps melting and 30 harvests left. I mean, it's really hard to see an alternative to that.
Correct. Unless you realize that, in fact, the fires in the Amazon this past year are less than they have been in any year in the past decade, that they are an artifact of very particular economic practices, which were encouraged by the previous administration in Brazil. And if you also recognize that, in fact, the South Pole has been dramatically expanding. At the same time, the North Pole has been melting.
So are you positioning yourself like, and maybe that's okay, like a climate change denier, or I guess not change denier, but you're saying it's changing, but it's changing in more ways than we're giving it credit for.
It's changing in far more complicated ways than we currently understand. And here I would point to Freeman Dyson. Freeman has been exactly correct to say that the current climate models we have cannot possibly work. I am not denying climate change. I am not denying that human activities have been a very important factor in those changes. What I am saying, however, is that these are far more complicated than we now have the capability to understand. The fluid dynamics of the atmosphere, the dynamic relationships between salinity, gravity, specific gravity, and temperature in the oceans. We have only begun to understand these things. There is not a chance, a snowball's chance, as we used to say, of the current climate models capturing those very complicated dynamics.
And rather than saying, hey guys, don't look over there, there's nothing to see there, which isn't what you're saying. There's something going on there. You're saying the high leverage point that we human beings have to affect the sort of change that we may want to see is not in the kind of political agitation that we think is our responsibility to our planet, but rather a kind of a deeper alteration or education of our inner sensibilities, the way we perceive the world, our relationship to it, and our relationship to one another, that somehow restoring a humanistic or a human sensibility that was lost around the late Middle Ages as we fell into industrialism, that if we can restore that or retrieve that, we are going to equip ourselves with the mindsets and relationships and maybe emotional and spiritual fortitude that we need to actually engage with the challenges in a coherent way.
That is exactly right. And I'm going beyond that to say this is already underway. Has been
left.
Only that means
has been
facts and relationships that lie behind all of this. And there is no escape. Now, I wouldn't for a moment suggest that this is going to be easy. I simply said it is inevitable. So what I'm telling you is that the very difficult task of shifting from one where we allow ourselves to go through life being distracted by bright, shiny objects, which is the figure side of the equation, which today, to a very large number of people, appears to look like doom, that has become an enormously popular figure.
And it's really hard not to see that and feel that, especially when you have kids and you see the Amazon on fire and the polar ice caps melting and 30 harvests left.
It was about 51 minutes and 55 seconds in where I was asking the question, is Marx saying that cultural digitality compels eventual healthy cultural self-reflection? And I think my answer is maybe. Douglas Rushkoff says at about 54 minutes and 19 seconds in, you're saying the high leverage point that we human beings have to affect the sort of change that we may want to see is not in the kind of political agitation that we think is our responsibility to our planet, but rather a kind of a deeper alteration or education of our inner sensibilities and the way we perceive the world, our relationship to it, and our relationship to one another, that somehow restoring a humanistic or a human sensibility that was lost around the late Middle Ages as we fell into industrialism, that if we can restore that or retrieve that, we're going to equip ourselves with the mindsets and relationships, maybe emotional and spiritual fortitude, that we need to actually engage with the challenges in a coherent way. And Mark Stallman says that is exactly right, and I'm going beyond that to say this is already underway. Then they start invoking McLuhan again, and it's just all joy for me.
It is only under severe circumstances that we are shocked out of that everyday distractibility. And that is precisely what has happened to us now. By introducing robots, not we're an agency, by becoming fully human. Philosophy has been trying to say in the 20th century to eliminate free will goes out the window. We restore human agency by becoming fully human. The only way to accomplish that is for us to recover our memories. Digital technology is designed for that purpose and that purpose alone.
Yep.
How do we stop being television and embrace being digital? Self-reflection, responsibility to ourselves and one another, human agency, fully human agency. There's a lot in the later parts of this episode, which you should certainly find at teamhuman.fm so you can listen to the whole thing. There's a lot in this that is doom and trauma. Doom and very natural trauma response. Doom and compounded trauma for not being able to call it trauma and address it accordingly. It's been layered like lasagna. Margaret Klein Solomon, PhD, wrote a paper called Leading the Public into Emergency Mode. And there are a bunch of links here in the live broadcast document that you can find at the top of intuitive.pub/text. There are also other articles that she has written. Mark Stallman used the word apocalypsis. And I thought, I don't have a timestamp, I can't play it. Is an apocalypsis a kind of revelatory cultural doula? An emergent prophetess? Seems relevant. Relevant. We the Unhoused has released episode 19, In COVID Limbo. And you can find that with our links at intuitive.pub/text. Please support Theo Henderson by navigating to patreon.com/WeTheUnhoused.
Singing, singing. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
She strode into a room she knew from the inside. I knew it too. A wilding, a wild, wah, a wilding clicked connected in the brain. Her eyes were warm. Words, words, words. Who knows? It'll be different now. Her eyes were warm. Something was ice. Something, something nostalgic. Compromise. Might wanna look up the words sometime. Only reason I can't play this is 'cause I didn't die. Well, who says we can't look up the words? You don't know where the words are. I don't know where the words are. Brought my aching heart in from the rain. Something, 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 something. Something, 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 something. It's amazing I can play it. She told the truth. The truth. She told the truth. I bet I can find the words if I look. Happy springtime, everybody. She strode into a room she knew from the inside. I knew it too. A wild link clicked, connected in the brain. Her eyes were warm, her edge was ice, playful, nostalgic compromise. She brought my aching heart in from the rain. Picked up her pipe, her little kit, a few sweet nothings whispered it. I found myself enthralled with every note of her entreat. She's all a curve, and in her trance I feel my soul that starts to dance. Whence comes experience so sweet? And with that bliss, a pain so sharp, it cut down deep my sacred heart. And with that bliss, a pain so sharp, it cut down deep my sacred heart. Big the fear, and big the primal roar. Who is that dame? Are we the same? Why does her song cause me such pain? And can I possibly have more? Really? Is that what I used to do? That's what I used to do. Who wrote that bar? Did you call it from the devil? Right up through the floor. Yeah. All around it quakes, it shakes with sound. Can't you feel its thrusting fingers in your belly's deep, deep in the ground? I said to her, hey, I know your name. I think the chances we're the same. What's that song? And who are you? And oh God, I feel so wild and true. She says to me, I am the word, I am the tree, I am the truth and policy of every single thing you've ever heard. Yeah. And brave enough though I may be, no mere bookshelf or deity can tell this tune the time of day to string. It sparks in her that ancient light, that magic susurrus glow of the mighty cosmos in my dreams that I've seen. Oh my goodness gracious. All because she wrote the bar, she called it from the devil right up through the floor. Something, something, the words are below the fold on the screen. Whoa. Oh wow, there's more. This is bizarre. All because she wrote the bar, she called it from the devil right up through the floor. Yeah, all around it quaked, it shook with sound. We felt its thrusting fingers in our bellies deep, deep in the ground, deep in the ground, deep in the ground, deep in the ground. Lips against my ear, she says again the thing I want to hear. I'm only here, I'm only me, I'm only human, can't you see? And I am wishing, I am waiting for a world that's in my head. And haven't I discovered yet the life I have instead? Is that the chord? There's a truth in me, a liberty, a boundless space of uncertainty.
feels good. I like it. What the fuck? I tell you casually, emphatically, please don't simply trust in me. One more whisper close, what say? A little pain, discomfort, and dismay can go a long, long way. What a crazy fucking day. She wrote the bar, she called it from the devil, right up through the floor. And she's not done, yeah, all around it quaked, it shook with a sound. We felt its thrusting fingers in our bellies deep, way deep in the ground, 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 way deep in the, way deep in the, way deep in the, way deep in the, way deep in the.